Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cabincast Rambles / Cabin in the Past cast, because we're going to be talking today about something that covers sort of both. Kind of. I'm Thomas, and with me today is Ollie.
Hello.
And today we are looking at the prologue of Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah.
Potentially, in fact, no, not potentially, the most famous representation of dinosaurs in media, the Jurassic Park and, by extension, the Jurassic World
series,
franchise, has had a bit of a revival as of recently. We've obviously got the two Jurassic Worlds that have come before this.
Yep.
And we've also had Camp
together as well, I think.
We've seen both seen. Yeah, we've seen both of them together.
I have not seen
Camp Cretaceous, which neither of us have seen, and is on the very long list of things that we may do eventually. Potentially.
Yeah.
They've got Battle of Big Rock, which I'm not sure I have seen. I'm not sure if you have.
I have not seen.
Might be worth doing a reaction to Battle of Big Rock, because that's a quick one.
To the list.
And obviously the various games, including Park Collector, a few others, and most notably Jurassic World Evolution 1 and 2, which is, well, 1 was a very fun game, and 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. So,
yep.
We're going to come at this both from the aspect of it being a movie and the entertainment value, and from the aspect of it being a piece of dinosaur media. That's going to mean the criticisms are going to be very different for each section of this video, and we will be starting off and mostly focusing on the entertainment value, because quite honestly, Jurassic World and Jurassic Park are there for entertainment purposes. They are not necessarily here to educate the public on dinosaurs, although I would argue they do have a bit of responsibility to do it. We will also be discussing, at least from my perspective, because I am fairly knowledgeable on this subject, the various accuracies and inaccuracies of dinosaurs, but we'll get through the majority of the entertainment part of the trailer before we go to that, so you guys who are not interested in learning the specifics between various dinosaurs and what's wrong with this and that can leave if you don't want to hear it, because I might get annoying.
I might try and take a couple of guesses at stuff that's wrong before Tom probably gets into it, but they will be guesses.
Yeah. But like I said, we'll start off with the ramble parts of this video. So,
indeed,
going on go, 3, 2, 1, go.
We have both seen this before. It's worth pointing out.
We have both seen this before. Just straight away, this intro for the Universal is really cool, and I love it.
It is.
And I wish they did more of this with. In fact, I'm not sure if they did do any of this with the original.
I don't think so.
Jurassic World, where it like turns into the T-Rex skull. Oh, it's so good.
I do really like that. We've already got the music as well.
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty certain that this was filmed in Madagascar, at least at some extent.
Certainly looks like it could be.
Either that or New Caledonia is another very common filming place for prehistoric scenes.
Sure.
Because the first part of this prologue is 65 million years ago, which we'll be discussing later, don't worry. I do love the lifelike movements of the muscles there with like the insects.
The first shot, I was like, elephant?
No.
And then it moves you like, no, this is in the past times.
Yes.
Because then I was like, wait, is this modern? And does this many dinosaurs already? No.
It does look absolutely beautiful.
It does look amazing.
And this, by the way, is potentially one of the best depictions of Quetzalcoatlus in media.
I was going to say, this is a pterosaur, right?
This is a pterosaur. This is Quetzalcoatlus. This was the big long neck boy that we discussed, I think, ages back in a
Ages back. Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, terrifying.
Does it say 65 billion years ago at some point? Oh, wait, it says 65 billion years later, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. The like wing flapping and stuff.
Again, I'm really
so
unsure
as
to. Yeah, I'm really unsure as to whether this is. Oh, he's an Oviraptor. which does the classic thing that most people think Oviraptor is known for.
Stealing the eggs.
Which is stealing the eggs, which they did in the in Disney's Dinosaur as well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And Nasutoceratops as a dinosaur has been getting so much more attention recently, and I love it because it's an amazing dinosaur.
Pretty cool.
Just look at that. And the design looks almost straight up ripped out of Evolution and the first media it appears in for Jurassic World, which is Battle at Big Rock.
One of them just like, you guys can leave. I'm just gonna mess around in the water a bit. Like,
yeah. Again, they are making these animals feel a lot very well, like, alive. And there's Iguanodon, I think.
Yeah.
And here is T-Rex.
And this is a T-Rex. I wasn't sure when I watched it the first time. Who's this guy? Oh no, this is the T-Rex. Who was the other one? Oh yeah, Iguanodon. You just said that. Never mind.
Giganotosaurus.
Giganotosaurus is the spiky boy.
Mm-hmm. It is indeed the spiky one. It's Carnosaur. Very good fight. Very quick fight, though, but again, it's prologue.
Yeah.
Again, pupil dilating when deaf. There's a lot of detail being put into this movie. It's not as if they're not putting in the effort, basically.
No, absolutely
Which
not.
some people I know in the community that is really up on paleoaccuracy would say, oh, that's not putting in a lot of effort, but it is putting in a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Just not in the places that people want to do. 65
people who
million
know
years.
about paleo art and stuff and don't know about filmmaking.
Yeah, basically. This is a cool scene, and it also...
Yeah, this is cool.
A lot of people argue that because this T-Rex here is Rexy, so that's the same T-Rex from Jurassic Park, the
T-Rex
first
that
one.
we've always had, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's been in now in four out of the
5 films.
Out of the 6 movies.
6 films?
Yeah, including this one.
Oh, sure. Some people
Jurassic Park 1 to 3, and then there's Jurassic Park 1 to 3.
Yeah.
That's a reference to the original Jurassic Park there.
Getting hit by a car.
And that is actually the Federal States Fish and Wildlife, which is the main people you play as in the campaign for Jurassic World Evolution 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want this...
not a good shot.
No, it wasn't a very good shot. But to be fair, the Rangers in that game don't have very good shots, so I'm going to consider that accurate.
And then
there are moments. That's the music and the
yeah, that's great. To be continued.
There are moments in that game where I send them off to go trank a dinosaur, and I come back and they're still tranking. I'm like, what are you guys doing? How are you missing it? This is literally a sauropod. It's not moving very fast.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good prologue.
Yeah.
Speaking from a movie sense, it's a very good prologue. It's very strong.
It is great. Things that I would think about. Now, I'll get to those in a moment. Let's talk about this.
We're going to talk about the cinematography. The music in this is amazing.
Music is...
It feels...
Right.
It's always something that Jurassic Park has got down. The music.
Yeah.
Very similar to Star Wars in the fact that no matter your opinion on on what's being shown, the music is always excellent and very effective.
Interestingly enough, the original Jurassic Park music was, of course, John Williams, and so was Star Wars. And then the ones which haven't been, Rogue One and Jurassic World, is all Michael Giacchino.
Yep.
Who is very, very good at doing his own thing, like Incredibles and stuff, and he's doing Spider-Man. He's doing Spider-Man No Way Home and the Batman as well. So he's doing so much stuff. But also with adapting what's come before, especially it seems John Williams and stuff.
which is excellent because we want that to sort of continue. So musical excellency is great. Another quick sort of, hang on, let me just go find it. There's a little reference with the scene here. Okay, this kid here is the director's kid.
Ah, cool.
So and he also appeared in the original Jurassic World, riding a Triceratops, I believe.
Fair.
Yeah. So, in terms of the visuals for the creatures, they do look absolutely stunning.
They do, yeah.
People had issues with the slow increase of CGI in Jurassic Park. There was a little bit of it in Jurassic Park 2, although it wasn't, well, to be technically correct, Jurassic Park Lost World. There was a little bit of it in that, which looked alright, but the majority of it was still puppets. It became a bit more of a thing in Jurassic Park 3, although again, there was some large animatronic scenes being used, because Steven Spielberg liked his animatronics. But then, going into Jurassic World, one of the bigger complaints in that movie was that some of the animals didn't look like they were there. And again, in Jurassic World 2, this is debatable, so I personally think it's fine, but...
I mean, some people seem to be able to be very good at spotting CGI, and we are not those people.
We're not those people.
We will happily watch things and be like, "That look great," and other people will be like, "No, it's clearly CGI." And I'm just like, "Well, I didn't notice. I was just having fun with it." So
yeah, but they do look very lifelike in this. They look
especially
like they're
with
there.
the muscle movements and stuff. Yeah,
and I think that's been something that has been said across most people who've watched this, that they do feel like they're actually there, which is great because that adds to the realism of this all. I speak about realism. We'll get into that later.
I mean, this feels like a full budget Walking with Dinosaurs, even though it's incorrect.
We don't get much on the plot, the storyline. It's just sort of an interesting section in what I presume is Hell Creek, and I'll give you my arguments as to why it's Hell Creek later on.
I mean, it's Rexy's origin story, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the T-Rex that's killed is then the same one that is used with the DNA to make Rexy in the original.
Move from Is it not? It's not Gigantosaurus.
It's Giganotosaurus is how I pronounce it. Other people may pronounce it differently, but I find the easiest way to pronounce it. Yes.
So it's like, I'm gonna bite you, and then I'm gonna, get you to trip, and then you'll fall. Haha, you fool! I've won on tactical grounds.
We'll get into that as well. Like the creature design is good. They look like the Giganotosaurus. I'm going to come back to the creature designs, don't you worry. But it looks like a movie monster. It looks like something that is going to be a big bad, and it is probably going to be the big bad of the movie.
Yeah.
There has been some rumors that we're going to see Spinosaurus again. There has been, we know we're going to see T-Rex again because we saw it in the prologue in the modern era.
Yeah.
We know there's at least 2 other raptor species showing up other than Velociraptor, one of which is going to be a genetically modified freak called a Troceraptor, which I think there is a species named that. I don't think it's going to look anything like it's supposed to look in the movie. I can't remember entirely. I'd have to search it up. And I cannot remember exactly how they spelt it either, so they might have spelt it in a weird way to make sure it was that. And then I think they've also got Pyroraptor, which...
It's a fire-breathing raptor,
right? It's a bit of a strange choice because it's... Well, for one, it's French and Spanish, which is atypical for the Jurassic Park series. They usually tend to focus on American dinosaurs. Because, again, American series.
Even though it really shouldn't matter because it's dinosaurs, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be our our feathered raptor. I'll get into why having a feathered raptor is not going to fix the issues with accuracy, but we'll go around that when we get to that. There's a lot of callbacks as well, which is very cool. I do like the callback with the car getting flipped and the two people on there screaming and then the T-Rex knocking it. It's also very clear that Rexy, the T-Rex in this, isn't really hunting. She's just sort of a bit confused because she doesn't actually go properly for anyone. She's just, going around trying to find a place that she's comfortable in, which would be difficult in mainland United States unless she ends up in Florida.
Yeah, so you've got these dinosaurs free,
I suppose,
properly free, for the first
roaming
time
around
ever. They're going to be
very, confused. Very confused and trying to find places that are nice for their various climate needs.
Quick spoiler for Jurassic World 2 in case you haven't seen it. There was a clone, right?
There was a clone in Jurassic World.
I just suddenly was like, how did they get out? Oh, right, yeah, the girl let them out, and it did make sense because she was like them. Wait, she was a clone. Oh, yeah, she was a clone.
Yeah, she was a clone, and that was the main reason for this guy who was Hammond's friend, who was working alongside him with Jurassic Park leaving because he ended up losing his daughter and he cloned her. And John Hammond was like, "No, you shouldn't do that. That's immoral." I mean, like I say, it was a good part of that movie, I thought. But a lot of people have been like, it's a stupid decision, yes, but it's a good part of the movie, and it did feel quite hard. And with that, I think we've gotten to the end of our film critics. So let's see what Ollie thinks was maybe wrong.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like for a start, because it makes perfect sense, is that a lot of what they showed is what we are going to see in the film. Because obviously, if you already got those, again, I don't really know how CGI works, but if you already got the creatures or like the bare the bones of the creatures and stuff,
you might as well use them.
You might as well use them. So, all of those things were definitely not all around at the same time.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the pterosaurs and the T-Rex and things, I don't think did their things at the same time. Raptors eating from the eggs. I mean, that's a thing that I've always known them to do. I don't know if they actually did do that. The thing that was eating the stuff out of the T-Rex's jaws feels like a thing that things did do.
It's a interesting piece of speculative behavior.
It's certainly something that fits. Yeah, for sure, whether it actually is a thing or not. I mean, triceratopses or whatever those things are, they're not triceratopses, are they? But they're similar. Pseudoceratopses. Being herd animals seems right. But again, I don't know if that'd be the same time period. Giganotosaurus and T-Rex, I feel like I saw in Walking with Dinosaurs.
You saw
at some point
T-Rex in Walking with Dinosaurs in the last episode of it.
I mean, a long time ago.
Both are in what we would call the trilogy of life. So that's Walking with Dinosaurs, Walking with Beasts, Walking with Monsters, and all of their associated media, including Chased by Dinosaurs and Chased by Sea Monsters.
Gotcha. I think maybe what I saw about them. Was a comparison thing, maybe.
That is potentially possible, yes. I don't think it would have been in Walking with Dinosaurs because Walking with Dinosaurs is older than Giganotosaurus. It might have been in one of the Chased by Dinosaurs episodes.
Maybe.
Which has its own issues, which we'll discuss maybe a little bit later. Or it may have come in Planet Dinosaur, where Giganotosaurus doesn't appear, and neither does T-Rex, but close relatives do, and they do get compared quite a bit in those series.
Unless
That
it
was
was
the
an
one that was
Ankylosaurus, and in my head I renamed it.
possible.
But again, yeah, because T-Rex was a scavenger, right?
No, and we're going to
No,
discuss that because I've just
not
heard
good.
that,
Okay.
and that's a problem.
I mean, that was me being like, I feel like I've heard this.
Yes, you have
I'm
heard
not
that,
sure if that was the thing that they thought, and then they went back
and
on.
it is actually quite linked to the Jurassic Park series. We'll discuss about it
Cool.
now because we're going to go into this. So first off,
let me just finish.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I don't know if Giganotosaurus and Tyrannosaurus would have been about at the same time. If it's not actually a scavenger, then them actually fighting over, I guess, territory or something makes a bit more sense.
Mhm.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have done. But that makes more sense then. But yeah, okay, go for it.
Okay, so for a start, what they're showing us, I believe, keyword being I believe, is supposed to be based off the Hell Creek Formation, which is the famous formation at the end of the Maastrichtian in the United States. And its associated formations, because there's a bunch of other ones that are closely related but differ slightly in strategic time and and habitat. It was a wetland, forested, semi-forested area, which is what we see in the in the prologue, sort of. Although there's a lot of inspiration from either New Caledonia or Madagascar, which is where I think.
Say, did remind me of the first
filmed.
episode that we watched of Walking with Dinosaurs a bit.
There is only 2 tree animals that are accurate to that time and place. That is Quetzalcoatlus, which is the big pterosaur, which, by the way, is a pterosaur that I have very few complaints about. It's a very well done pterosaur. Ankylosaurus, which I cannot say the same about, and Tyrannosaurus. This formation and its associated formations are some of the most famous in the world, and they also come with animals that you typically see surrounding T-Rex, like Triceratops and Pachycephalosaurus. There are raptors there, specifically Archaeoraptor and Dakotaraptor.
Sure.
And there are even Oviraptors there, in the form of Anzu. Unfortunately, most of the rest of the animals here are out of time and out of place. Starting with the pterosaurs, we have Pteranodon, which is the smaller pterosaur that we see throughout this, would have gone extinct by this point, although relatives would have been around, specifically in Morocco.
Yeah.
And it's possible that a species of Pteranodon might have survived up until that point, but we don't have fossilized evidence for it, so speculating on what we don't know aside, it's not known from Hell Creek. Also not known from Hell Creek is the sauropod we get, Dreadnoughtus. That is South American. It comes from the, forgive my pronunciation, Cerro Fortzella Formation, which is Campanian, which is the stage before the Maastrichtian. This is going to be a pattern. A lot of these animals are actually Campanian as opposed to Maastrichtian, because during the Campanian, dinosaur diversity was actually higher than in the Maastrichtian. And it was, at the time of its discovery, proclaimed to be the largest dinosaur ever, which it probably will be proclaimed in this movie, and I'll tell you why. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World have a long history of using dinosaur names that sound cool. And while the largest was probably Puertosaurus or Argentinosaurus or Patagotitan, the coolest sounding out of that group of megasauropods is undoubtedly Dreadnoughtus.
Yeah.
Literally means fears nothing. I mean, what we see next after that is the Ankylosaurus, which gets when we go around to all of these and discuss more of the issues with the species in general. It was in the right time, Ankylosaurus, so that's fine. We then see the Pseudoceratops, which is also Campanian, although it is at the very least on the right continent.
Gotcha.
It came from the Karawa Pits Formation, which is a very famous formation that represents a tropical, almost rainforest type ecosystem, I believe. although specifically more of a, again, wetland on the edge of the interior sea. And it has some interesting fauna, including a potential relative of T-Rex, Pterophonius. Also some oviraptors, also dromaeosaurs. But not a lot of animals that are particularly famous or cool sounding. Which, as a result, means that it's the only one to make an appearance because it is a very striking animal with those bull-like horns. The Pseudoceratops itself actually is a very interesting ceratopsian because its discovery has allowed for the creation of a new subfamily of ceratopsians. So we have Chasmosaurus and Centrosaurines, and inside Centrosaurines we have Pachyrhinosaurus and its relatives. We have Centrosaurus and its relatives. There's a few species like Styracosaurus which keep on hopping between the two of them. But now we also have Nasutoceratopsine, which is animals more similar to Nasutoceratops. And there are a few, and more are being discovered. They seem to be more common in the south of the United States. So very cool.
Yeah.
Oviraptor.
I just about followed that.
Yeah, Oviraptor is the next animal that we see. Literally, what was its name exactly? It's featured in dinosaur media before, Oviraptor. It's been around for a while. It was discovered at the Flaming Cliffs, which is a type formation for the Dodotcha Formation. And its name means egg Caesar or egg thief.
So and over
named this.
Yeah.
It was named this because they found it on top of an egg, on top of a clutch of eggs, which they assumed to be Protoceratops eggs. As it turned out, when they actually looked at eggs from animals, because they found lots of oviraptors all over these egg piles in Dodotcha and elsewhere. And when they actually examined some of the really well-preserved eggs that showed babies inside, they found out that the eggs in question were not Protoceratops eggs. They were actually oviraptoran eggs. They named this poor animal for the presumed behavior of stealing eggs. It was actually just a good mother.
Just protecting itself. That's hilarious and also very sad.
So, no, Oviraptor, not dismissing the fact that it could have stolen eggs, Oviraptorosaurs and all of their relatives were omnivores in general, although some of them more herbivorous and some of them more carnivorous. It's quite possible that certain Oviraptors would engage in egg-stealing behavior. There is, however, at this point, no evidence for it directly. There is inferred evidence, but the direct evidence of an oviraptor being on the nest eating eggs is no longer valid because we know they were nesting.
Okay.
So you can criticize that. I tend to criticize it only on just misrepresenting the poor creature, which again has already had a very sad history with this, where it's like, it's the egg stealer, and then it wasn't.
No, I was not an egg stealer. I was just protecting my.
Before we get to the final big creature, we have one final creature, which is Moors intrepidus, which comes from Cedar Mountain Formation, again in the United States. This animal has jumped through time quite a lot because it's from the Berrizian. I'm forgetting Iguanodon. I'll get back to that. From the Berrizian, which is Middle Cretaceous. And yeah, it's a small tyrannosaur. It's a basal tyrannosaur before they got large. And the reason for it being small was because it lived in an environment with a close relative of Giganotosaurus. Which leads to the very interesting, comparison behavior here, where we have a Moors intrepidus eating the flesh that is stuck in a Giganotosaurus's tooth. Which is a cool bit of speculative evolution, even if there's no evidence for it. Could have happened. The relative it lived with was either Acrocanthosaurus, potentially, although I think that's a bit late for Acrocanthosaurus, but more in general, Seat, which is a neonovatorid. and one of the few animals that can actually be classed as closely related to one of the biggest carnivores in the UK, Neonovator. They're not super close to Giganotosaurus, but they are Carnosaurian allosaurs, which is in the same group, and they are most often placed inside inside Carcharodontosauria, which is the group that also contains Giganotosaurus. I forgot to mention Iguanodon. I'll mention it now. Iguanodon is also jumping out of place, although the model looks fairly decent here, if a bit outdated. Which finally leaves us with Giganotosaurus, which has also jumped through time. In this case, it's from the Canderas Formation of South America. Again, it's Middle Cretaceous. It's jumped forward in time. And it most certainly would not have ever encountered a large tyrannosaur because they evolved after the extinction of large carnosaurs.
Right, okay.
General mistakes with the dinosaurs, there are a few. The pterosaurs don't walk how we think they would have walked. Less of the bats folding up the wings and more of the way that Quetzalcoatlus was actually walking, to be fair. Ankylosaurus is given like an armadillo-like armor sheath over the top of it, when in fact its armor would have been somewhat more similar to crocodilians, but inlaid into the skin. Almost like a leatherback turtle.
Okay.
With only a few osteoderms poking out, showing how very armored it was. It also would have been a bit more closer to the ground, less of an arch. Honestly, I don't have much complaints for Oviraptor other than, the gross misallocation of its behavior. It looks beautiful.
Cool.
It's got pugnacious feathers. The only thing I'd say is it does need pugnacious feathers on the arms, because we think Oviraptorans have that. But other than that, that's good. Mors Intrepidus, similarly, although it does look a bit too Dromaeosaur-like, would have only had very thin layer of pretty much downy fluff, which is what is shown. Which they also show on T-Rex, which is an interesting choice, because there's still a lively debate about whether T-Rex would have had almost elephant-like feathers, where like there's fur sporadically across like how an elephant would have.
Right.
Because it's so large, it doesn't need the thermoregulation protection, which feathers were originally used for. There has also been the discovery of several skin impressions from tyrannosaurs, which show that they had scaly skin. It's still a debate. People argue either way. Giganotosaurus is all kinds of weird monster bits stuck on it. The skull shape is generally alright, although it should be a bit beefier. And all the dinosaurs in general in this movie have what is called shrink wrapping, which is where the bones that are familiar to us are somewhat exposed. In life, these animals probably would have looked fairly different because they would have had skin and flaps and flesh over those bones, which would have given them a different appearance, how we would have expected them to look just from their bones. That's particularly noticeable with the older models for like T-Rex, although it is present in the Giganotosaurus and several other animals. One final note, because it always gets me wrong. Gets me annoyed. Sauropods. Our sauropod in this intro, the Dreadnoughtus. Its feet are wrong. Almost every other part of the animal is excellent. Okay. If a bit unimaginative with these dinosaurs. It may have had armor, it may not, we don't know.
Fair.
But the feet of sauropods are weird, okay? They are strange because they're not like elephantine feet that we imagine, usually. Their upper feet, their little forearms, they sort of formed almost like this U shape. Instead of like a very squashed U shape, instead of like an actual like elephantine foot.
Yeah.
And this is evidenced in their walking tracks. We know it was a U shape because they made U-shaped tracks. It doesn't have any claws on the front. At least Titanosaurs don't have any claws on the front feet. Diplodocus have one, I think, and some more basal taxa have more. And then the hind limbs actually look more like turtle feet, with sort of like the claws splayed out to sort of support their weight.
Yeah.
Obviously, unlike turtles, they were fully erect, whereas turtles are sprawled, which allowed them to get much bigger. But it's a similar sort of idea of spreading the weight around.
Okay.
And that, I guess, leads on to the final thing I want to talk about, which is T-Rex as a scavenger. So that theory, is a theory that's been around for a while. It's an argument that's been had around for a while, and it's an argument that should have gone away a long time ago. It has mainly been pushed by Jack Horner, who is, interestingly enough, the main consultant on the original Jurassic Park films. And he is a very controversial figure in paleontology, because he has a tendency for what he claims is challenging paleontological norms, and in some cases, yes, he is. But in other cases, the theories he put forwards aren't very well supported. And one of those theories he put forward, and also put into Jurassic Park 3, by the way, that's why the T-Rex is eating a dead animal in that, is that T-Rex was a scavenger. His main reason for this was that it was a big, slow animal that couldn't see very well. We'll get to that. And that it had bone-crushing teeth, because, animals like hyenas have bone-crushing teeth, and they are typically scavengers.
Apex predator because it's slow and big and not got great eyesight, so it must feed what other things kill. Okay.
The problem with this is multifaceted.
Sure.
One, there may or may not be evidence that T-Rex ate living animals because animals have escaped. There are hadrosaur bones and triceratops bones with what appear to be teeth marking from tyrannosaurs that have then had it regrow over it. That's pretty concrete evidence. However, there is some arguments either way as to whether this was caused by T-Rex attack or whether it was caused by injury.
Accidental biting.
Well, it's not necessary. There is some suggestion that it could have been broken for some of them. There's some suggestion that it could have been very, very lucky geological processes that caused something that looks very similar to that. It's not concrete. However, what is concrete is, one, the top speeds of the animals in Hell Creek. So Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, two big animals other than Ankylosaurus in Hell Creek. I suppose it's also Torosaurus, but we'll ignore that for now. Were slower than T-Rex. Their adult forms were slower than the T-Rex adult form. So T-Rex wasn't fast. It didn't need to be. It could keep up with its prey.
Gotcha.
And it could overtake them. In addition, while T-Rex's bone-crushing bite is very similar to a hyena's, hyenas actually hunt quite a lot. Like 70% of their of the food they ingest has been hunted. So comparing it to a hyena is not a very good comparison if you want a scavenger. He also compares it to a vulture. However, the reason that scavenging is applicable for New World and Old World vultures is because they can fly. We're pretty certain T-Rex could not fly. Another reason given, by the way, was the sense of smell in T-Rex, which is excellent. And while, yes, a sense of smell is useful for scavenging, dogs also have this. And again, I don't think anyone's arguing that wolves are primarily scavengers.
No.
The final piece of evidence that, however, puts this to rest, in my opinion, is the fact that T-Rex actually had exceedingly good eyesight. Like, one of the most insane eyesights in all of history. It was bird's vision for a start, so it's Archosaurian vision, unlike synapsids like ourselves. It has been evolved for, at that point, millions of years to see in daylight, to see exceedingly well in daylight. They are positioned on the skull to give it forward-facing vision, like in humans, so it can have depth perception, which is insanely important for hunting. In fact, it's generally an adaptation developed mostly by hunt.
Right.
Most of what has been said about T-Rex in terms of being a scavenger has been refuted. Jack Horner still continues to say it was a scavenger, but he also has several issues with tyrannosaurs. Jack Horner is noted to be quite a fan of hadrosaurs. He found Myosaurus in the Two Medicine Formation, which was an incredible find because Myosaurus proved that both hadrosaurs were living in herds and they were looking after their young.
Huh.
And he went out to Hell Creek, I believe it was Hell Creek, either that or one of its other, like the Lance or something, looking for hadrosaurs, Edmontosaurus, and he found something in the realm of like 8 tyrannosaurs, and he wasn't very happy about it. He doesn't like T-Rex. He's not a fan of the creature, and he doesn't like the amount of attention that it gets. There are other reasons why he's controversial. There's another species of Ceratopsian from Hell Creek. I need to get this word right. Torosaurus, which he has suggested is an adult form of Triceratops. That is seen as unlikely. He is also the person who has pushed the idea of raptors hunting in packs, which is, by the way, also unlikely.
Interesting.
The evidence for that is circumstantial at best and non-existent at worst. He's pushed forward the opinion that pachycephalosaurs, specifically the Hell Creek pachycephalosaurs, although not all of them are found at Hell Creek, Dracorex, Stygimoloch, which we saw in Jurassic World 2, and Pachycephalosaurus, which we saw in Lost World 3 and Jurassic World, are all the same genre. And that's the only theory that he's pushed from this sort of time period that has gained mainstream approval, because it does seem like they were probably juvenile forms of one another. I think he also supported the idea that Nanotyrannus was Tyrannosaurus, which was also correct. So lots of theories, not all of them good.
A bit of a mixed bag.
And then there's also the incident with his wife. I'm going to tell you the story straight up. He sort of married one of his students. He was 60, she was 18.
Fun.
And he got fired for it because the museum was not comfortable with that, quite rightly.
Understandable.
They are also now divorced. Not that that means anything, but that was a thing that happened, and a lot of people criticised him for. So yeah, controversial figure, but also insanely intertwined because he was the paleontologist who was the advisor for Jurassic Park, and he's the reason why we didn't get lizard-like raptors. He's the reason why we got far more complex pack hunting raptors in that movie as well, because he was a proponent, and it still does support that idea in raptors. That's a whole other argument. Needless to say, the main fossil evidence for this is disputed, and there's other fossil evidence which directly contradicts it.
Sure.
Take of that what you will. Overall, in regards to scientific accuracy, if they were trying to display the Hell Creek 65 million years ago, there is one final thing which ruins that entire section, which is that all of the dinosaurs would have been dead at 65 million years ago, because the asteroid would have already hit Earth. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs hit 66 million years ago, not 65, even though 65 is parroted. That is an older estimate that has entered pop culture and keeps on getting repeated. None of that matters, however, because of course Jurassic World and Jurassic Park take place in an alternate universe where dinosaurs have evolved differently, things have happened differently, and it's just an excuse to have a fun monster movie about dinosaurs. But that's the paleontological accuracy of it. And that would be my criticisms of it. There are so many things that I haven't mentioned, but for sake of being brief and entertaining, I'm not going to go into it, because otherwise we're going to start talking about various specific bone changes, and that's stupid. Most of the animals in this, most of the newer animals in this, are very passable to be shown on movies. There's problems, but they're passable. Dreadnoughtus, other than the legs, very good. The Pseudoceratops, I think it's proportioned a bit weirdly. Again, though, it's a very good animal.
Sure.
Oviraptor is probably the best representation the series has put forth of feathered dinosaurs, and it's good that they're starting to do that. Please have feathered velociraptors in the movie. I would be very happy if you did. And have them the right size as well. That would make me even happier.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it would be less of a movie monster and, again, movie monster. And the depiction of Mors Intrepitus as having that sort of downy dino fuzz is what it's called, like baby bird type fuzz.
Yeah.
And even T-Rex having like an elephantine covering of that baby fuzz.
Yeah.
While disputed, that is a step forward. And ultimately that's part of what Jurassic Park is all about. Because even though it's never been wholly accurate, whether that's down to the people advising on it or just the opinions of the time, it has pushed forward how dinosaurs are perceived in the public's image. And that's incredibly important because dinosaurs as active stem birds is yet to truly enter the public consciousness like active dinosaur reptiles, which was pushed by the first Jurassic Park movie. And hopefully this movie will have a similar effect.
Yeah.
In regards to the entertainment value of the movie, as we've already said, I think it's going to be very good. And we will be watching it and reviewing it.
Of course.
When it comes out.
We shall.
And when that review does come out, it will be almost entirely focused probably on the entertainment value because
we might have to do two.
While it is entertaining and fun to talk about the inaccuracies and picking holes and this isn't how this would have been and this would have been this.
Sure.
It's not the point of the movie because the point of the movie is not to be entirely accurate. They've even pulled it out of our reality and into a different reality.
Yeah.
Where this all happened, just so they can make changes to make it look,
for sure,
feel more like a dinosaur monster movie, which is what it is.
Yeah, like, I would say it's a great jumping off point for people for like kids and people who see this and like, wow, that's really cool. I want to look at more of this myself, and then they can do that.
And that is something that I think a lot of people in the community of like who are like super focused on accuracy and paleo accuracy tend to forget about Jurassic Park. You can like both independent of each other, for one.
Yeah.
Are there inaccuracies in the movie? Yes. Do they ruin it for me? No. I still very much enjoy going and watching these movies. And they do provide the entry points to study of this. I mean, there's only one documentary that I can even say has provided that for other people, and that would be Walking with Dinosaurs and the Trilogy of Life series. And even that's got its issues now because it's 20, 30 odd years out of date. But it's still getting young kids into the science the same way it did when it first came out. And it's the same with Jurassic World. It's interesting, it looks cool, it feels entertaining, and it sparks interest. And even if the small changes put forward with feathered dinosaurs in the Cretaceous doesn't have that much of effect, if even one person starts looking into it and it begins changing the public consciousness on dinosaurs, so it becomes less, these are big, scary, scaly reptiles, to more, these are stem birds that acted more like birds and crocodiles than any lizard that we know today, that would be worth it, despite all the inaccuracies. And ultimately, the point of the series is to have fun. And I think I speak for both of us here when we say that we had fun with this prologue. It was fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And very hopefully the movie will also have fun.
Indeed.
With that, I think we'll leave it there. Sorry if this section has dragged on a bit. I know not everyone is totally enamored with the idea of going through every dinosaur and going, well, this is wrong and this is wrong. But it is something I like to do because I have, frankly, unhealthy obsession with dinosaurs and paleontology.
That being said, we will leave it here.
Yes, indeed. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cabincast. For more episodes, go to www.cabincast.podbean.com or use the Podbean app. You can now also find us on iTunes and Pocket Casts under Cabincast and on YouTube. The uploads here are quite behind. Finally, you can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Cabincast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.